All right. So No Kings weekend. That's what it was, a No Kings protest weekend. Massive protests. Some violence I heard broke out, Cleveland, Portland, a couple other places. And this is, I think, the second No Kings protest weekend that the communists put together. And their release, I don't know if it was Trump people, but it was a meme released, a video meme release of Trump flying a fire jet with a king crown on, and he was dumping shit all over the protesters.
Well, you know what's interesting about this whole situation is the Democratic Party and most of their elected clown show are out there pushing this. So remember January 6, 2020, when they were talking about Trump was somehow responsible for galvanizing 180 people who essentially walked into the wide open U.S. Capitol and supposedly tried to start an insurrection. Well, these same folk that had all of these hearings about this are the ones that have been over and over trying to hustle as many people out as they can. So what they said about Trump in January 6, 2020 applies more to them. And what you're looking at is a classic propaganda technique. They are using a campaign complicit with the communications, entertainment, and news industries to spread a false narrative that Trump's trying to overthrow the government and become some kind of dictator or king. He's not. Essentially, in layman's terms, he's trying to give the whole system an enema because it's constipated with the garbage that's been stuffed into it over the last 50 some years by the Democratic Party and the far left. That's essentially what it's all about. And anytime you give something an enema or you feed it a laxative, which is what he's doing to get rid of the constipation, what's going to come out will smell. And a lot of people will get upset, and the people that made the constipated situation happen are getting disturbed because they are not being parasites down in the bowels of something that they are trying to weaken from within. So, I'm all for Trump. Memphis hasn't been this peaceful in a long, long time. And then we've got our local clown show on the Clown Council and the Clown Commissioner Urkel and Mayor less than otherwise possible Harris in place, and they're trying to join a lawsuit to attack bringing the National Guard here. And everywhere I've been, people are glad it's here because they don't have to worry about crime like they used to. And I find it strange. What are you trying to say? You want us to believe that a 79-year-old man is trying to take over the country and become king and do what? And you have all of this check and balance system that's in place, that's been in place for 230 plus years, and all of a sudden it's going to fail. So, what I see is a carefully crafted effort to basically disrupt because they aren't getting their way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good for the country.
Right.
It's not good for the Republic and nobody else.
I want to play, before I play this clip here, because speaking of Memphis, I want to play this because it was a little boy, and he's talking about a young boy from Memphis, Tennessee, talking and giving thanks to President Trump for sending the National Guards. He said he could finally play outside. So let me share this.
My name is Braylon, and I live here in Memphis. I've been noticing not just a slight change, more of a detrimental change in like how peaceful Memphis is ever since the National Guard came. There was a lot of things I couldn't do before the National Guard came because I had to worry a lot about guns and stuff. I couldn't play because I was worried that somebody might pull out a gun or something. but now I could do that. And I just wanted to thank the President of the United States for bringing the National Guard. My name is Brian.
Now, that's what I've been hearing all over the place. I've been out every night watching, and I don't hear any gunshots. I don't see people clowning around. And by the way, this is even-handed. They've even arrested a couple of cops here in Memphis for getting out of hand. So that's a good thing. And by the way, if anybody gets charged, they wind up going in front of a judge that got elected by the local people. So this kind of false narrative is bad. And I think what's going on is they're using the opportunity to take a good look at what some of the local elected and appointed officials are doing. And if they dig just below the surface, if they just scratch it, they're going to find the misappropriation of funds, the undercover deals, the bribes and the extortion and all kinds of other stuff and the bad things that are going on. So it sounds like somebody's scared to have the light of day come to see what's under the rock. So
I want to
lawsuits against Governor Bill Lee, by the way, for sending in the National Guard. They're suing the Tennessee government.
Oh,
as well as Trump.
Who's suing the Tennessee government?
The local yokels, the Clown Council, the Clown Commission, Mayor Urkel of the city of Memphis, Mayor Less Than Common Sense Harris, Less Than Common Sense Lee. They are trying to stop it.
So public officials can sue the state that they're in, the government?
Yeah, in other words, they're elected appointed officials, and one of the local ringleaders, a member of the Young Democrats, who is needful of great scrutiny and audit, who is clerk of the General Sessions Court, Tammy Sawyer, is now of a state investigation by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation because she brought somebody in from Mississippi armed with a gun through the security into the courthouse without proper permission from the judges, and that's a violation of Tennessee codes annotated 39-17-1307 and 8. So they want to find out what she's been up to, and she's talking about she's received threats to her life. Why? I don't know, since she's nominally just a clerk and keeps records. None of the judges have been threatened. She went in there and put on a clown show in front of the sheriff's department, who act as the bailiffs. And she got to talking about it was this, but the sheriff is a black man, Bonner. And there were 2 black deputies and 1 white one involved. So where did this get to be racist that she's complaining? And if she was worried about security, why didn't she go do what the rules require and go talk to one of the judges or go over there and see the sheriff? But since she's never done this and held herself out without any patience for holding the office, probably it's done out of ignorance. But what do they say? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You brought a gun into the courthouse, you got a problem.
Well, I want to play this clip because...
Or had somebody from Mississippi bring a gun into a courthouse.
Well, I want to play this clip here because there, in this clip in Fox News, the guest is explaining how the No Kings protests over the weekend are funded, you know. One second.
Shutdown now dragging into day 18 with no end in sight. Senate Democrats repeatedly rejecting a new funding bill. So what do Republicans plan to do? Well, look who's here in studio. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin joins me now. Senator Mullin, I want to get to the shutdown, but first I want to talk about this so-called No Kings protest. Your team exposed this, and you found a poster. Apparently, they're touting the communist?
Yeah, well, it's actually sponsored. If you look at their sponsorship of the No Kings rally, it says CPUSA, which is the Communist Party of the United States of America. And it actually has the same symbol that the old Soviet Union used to have on it. When my team first saw it, they looked at it and they said, is this for real? We researched it, and sure enough, you can see it right there in the bottom left-hand corner where it says CPUSA. You're going, okay, there's a reason why Republicans are calling this an anti-American rally. It is exactly what it is. When you have the Communist Party that's sponsoring it, you're saying that's pro-America? Come on, give me a break. And you're protesting on the streets that President Trump made safe. You're protesting on the streets that President Trump has made it possible for you to actually walk outside. I mean, you're protesting President Trump, who's secured the border, who's lowered inflation, who's brought down gas prices, who's had morale in the military at the highest it's been. You go through the optimistic outlook for the American people, and they're saying that this is the first time they feel hopeful about it. He's ended 8 wars. He's brought home the hostages in Israel, and yet you still see signs out there that says Free Palestine. I mean, are you kidding? You can't make this stuff up. What are you exactly protesting other than your hatred towards President Trump? And it's absolutely absurd. And you have the Communist Party that's sponsoring you?
Yeah, the Communist Party USA, you see that there in that poster. And yet your colleague in the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, said this. I want to play his remarks about this protest.
We are a democracy in America. We have no kings, despite the fact that Trump has even said he wants to become one. Millions of Americans, millions will come together to say just that we don't want kings in America. I will join the marchers to celebrate what makes this country so great.
So he's joining the marchers sponsored by the Communist Party?
Right. Well, but look who's leading the party today. You have a socialist and a Marxist between Bernie Sanders and AOC. You have 3 individuals that were sworn in by the Quran who believes in the Sharia law, which is Tlaib, Omar, and Jasmine Crockett. And so you think, and they're the 5 people leading it, and you have Chuck Schumer that's going to literally march in a parade led by the Communist Party. But you know who's not marching in it? Hakeem Jeffries. Do you know who also hasn't supported Madami, who's an open communist that's going to possibly be the mayor of this great city? Is Hakeem Jeffries. You know why? I 100% believe he's setting up a run for 2028. I mean, who else is the party going to go to, right? They're going to recycle Hillary. They're going to bring back Michelle Obama. They're going to bring Kamala Harris, who says she's by far the most qualified candidate to ever run for president. I mean, literally, she said that with a straight face. And so I 100% think Hakeem is at this point is looking at a 2028 run.
Well, that's fascinating to me because Hakeem Jeffries has never been on my radar as someone who could run for office. But you make a really compelling case. He's not endorsed the Democratic Socialist, who's the Democratic nominee.
Right.
And he's not going to join these marchers. So what's his calculation here? He wants to play a little bit to the middle?
Well, think about when Speaker McCarthy became Speaker. It was Nancy Pelosi who was the speaker who should have gave the gavel to Kevin McCarthy. She didn't. She stood aside, and the gavel was actually given by Hakeem Jeffries, who was never the speaker. He never had the gavel. And he went on, if you remember, at 1 o'clock in the morning, he went on for about a 15-minute rant about it sounded like he was announcing his candidacy. So at that point was the first time I looked at that and said, I told my wife, I went, he's running for president. And I think he wanted to run for president in 26, excuse me, but he couldn't. But you think about the individuals out here that are also looking at the No Kings Day. These are the same people that put Kamala Harris in as their nominee, and she never won even a primary election.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a king is. A king doesn't win an election. A king is appointed. They literally appointed Kamala Harris to be their VP or their presidential candidate for the Democrat Party in the 26 elections, and yet they're protesting President Trump, who won, the electoral vote, the popular vote, and by the way, all 77 counties in Oklahoma, which he's very proud of, and we're very proud of that too. He was actually duly elected, yet this party is who? I don't even know if they know their identity anymore.
Yeah, the Democratic Party, it's worth mentioning, when's the last time they really had a competitive primary? Because the Bernie Sanders camp is like, hey now, you blocked me from the nomination, and then next time around, they appoint Kamala Harris, no real election or primary there. As we look at these images, look, there's a guy in like clown hair there, rainbow clown hair. You see this torch, I assume that's
well, I'm glad they're blocking out the vulgar language too. You all see all the signs that have vulgar stuff written on them.
I bet you passed a lot of that here in New York City. But this is what Democrats are shutting down the government for, because the reasoning here is Schumer got so much criticism in March.
That's right.
For making a deal with Republicans, and he needed to cater to the left-wing base, and so he needed to let this rally happen before reopening the government. Do you believe that's the cynical calculation?
No. Well, it even gets crazier than that, Kaylee. If you look at who actually wrote the CR, he wrote it. He wrote this clean CR back in September when he was leader of the Senate, when he was underneath President Biden. This is the same CR we passed last September. This is that he voted for. This is the CR we voted for in December. This is the CR he voted for in January, and the CR he voted for in March. What's changed now is you got a career politician named, well, Chucky Schumer, who is afraid of AOC in 2028. Now, mind you, his election isn't until 2028, but when he voted for it in March, she released a poll showing that she beats him statewide by 20%. His entire mentality changed because that's what happens when you have a career politician. I make a joke about this all the time, but he was in the House of Representatives in '96. That was 3 decades ago. That's the year I graduated high school.
Yeah.
That's how long he's been there. But that's what you have when you have a career politician. You can't rationalize with them because they're not making sense for the American people. You can't negotiate with crazy. He's worried about his political views, which is his political ambitions. He's scared to death that he won't have the title senator if he votes for it.
So you said you were in high school when he was elected?
Yes.
Mike Johnson said he was in 3rd grade, so I'm doing some age calculations here, trying to figure out your age, Senator Mullen. All right, you're a young buck. Thank you so much for joining us today.
He's 48 because I'm 49 because I graduated high school in 95. Well, we could be the same age, but yeah.
What's going on? They need to be careful. They went after Trump, had weeks of hearings.
Who needs to be careful? Democrats?
Yeah, they went after Trump and had weeks of hearings because they were trying to say what he said over the weeks caused 180 people to peacefully enter the U.S. Capitol building and try to start an insurrection. Now we have these people going, they're claiming millions are there. They are trying to ramp up an actual demonstration and incite violence and public disturbance. They need to be careful because there are laws on the book that they might be transgressing against. And again, it's just straight up propaganda. You're accusing the other side of doing what you're doing. And that's what we're looking at. So,
do you want to get that fire alarm, honey?
No, that's not fire alarm. That's the workman going in and out of the house. If the door opens, you can't do anything about it. Yeah. I've got people over here working. But you know what I found interesting? These characters, they had some people here in Memphis hooked up with this No Kings thing. So they had overpasses. So you looked up as you were going and the traffic was slowing down and it was stopping. Police had stopped it because they were worried about the protesters throwing stuff down from the overpass onto the freeway. So there were maybe 10 or 11 people up there, wasn't many at all. And they had some ragged signs. And one of the signs, several of them said, honk if you support us. And while we're stuck in this jam, it took some minutes to get past the overpass complex. I heard one horn honk one time, and that was it. And I saw a lot of people with disgusted looks on their faces when I rubbernecked around and took a look at my fellow drivers who were disgusted with being held up. So I ran into some people at a couple of the department stores around later, and they were just expressing absolute disgust with this whole thing. And it's like, what do you want us to do? Go out there and get robbed and killed again? Or do you want some peace? It was your job when you had the chance to deliver peace, order, and prosperity to the community, and you haven't. So why would we support you? You're just making us angry, and that's stuck on stupid. So it is what it is.
Well, I want to play this clip here, right? Because this is Ted Cruz introduce a bill to stop people like George Soros from funding rallies like the No Kings rally. Let me play this.
Look, I think you're right. I think he is scared for his political life. And the Democrats today are a party of radical interest groups. Now, I will say one of the most important things President Trump has done recently is he has pledged that he's going to go after Antifa. And what I've been urging is follow the money, cut off the money. And you look at this No Kings rally, and there's considerable evidence that George Soros and his network is behind funding these rallies, which may well be riots all across the country. And Soros is writing the check. And so I've introduced legislation called the Stop Funders Act that would add rioting to the list of predicate offenses for RICO. Why is that? Because it would let the Department of Justice use RICO, racketeering, to prosecute the money that is funding the anti-Semitic protests on campuses, the pro-open border protest in LA and other cities, and these No King protests. Anyone that is supporting rioting and violence, it lets you go after the money. And I'll tell you, there are more than 200 left-wing groups behind these No Kings rallies this weekend. They deliberately are blind to what each of the others are doing. That's part of how they avoid accountability. RICO is designed for precisely that sort of criminal enterprise. And so I believe the Senate, we ought to take up and vote on and pass our Stop Funders legislation. And I've urged both Pam Bondi at DOJ and Kash Patel at FBI, follow the money and prosecute those who are writing checks funding acts of violence, political violence or otherwise, across the country.
Well, you know what? I don't have a problem with that. I think it is appropriate. I also would point out to the good senator that there are already laws on the books that make what is being done by Soros illegal, perhaps. And I would offer this. See, there's this thing called inciting a riot. And if you fund the activities of the mob that result in the riot, then you have aided and abetted the violation of the law, which brings you into the fold of being subject to being indicted. Now, that would already cover what's going on. You don't really need a new law, but it wouldn't hurt to have one that way, because if you, as we know, go to the BLM site, it says on there, we make arrangements, provide transportation and communications for protest and demonstrations. So if you do that and there is a riot that results, then you are aiding and abetting the commission of a felony. Inciting a riot also would be laid at these people's feet. Okay, you may not be the one, but if you finance somebody knowingly who is advocating for what is likely to produce a riot, then you get caught up in that too. So they already have enough to go after the person, and since it crosses state lines with cell phones and interviews and social media, that's wire fraud, air fraud, and mail fraud, since somebody's probably put it in a magazine or sent out some solicitation like the Democrats are famous for when they're trying to raise money. But I don't have a problem with his proposal. And remember,
Trump did say he was going to open up an investigation on George Soros.
Yeah, but remember, these are the same people that had those weeks of hearings in Congress over whether, remember the January 6th hearings?
Yeah.
Over whether or not Trump should be indicted by their Democratic Justice Department because he said some stuff that, under the Constitution and cases heard over the last 230 years by the U.S. Supreme Court, it's quite all right, but they wanted to portray them as, hey, this guy, Donald Trump, was trying to incite insurrection. Well, everything they accused him of, we've been looking at them large on media that is recorded, and you can't take it back once you do it and record it. And they've been doing tenfold more of what they were accusing Donald Trump of. It's like Tish James and her fraud in trying to obtain financing, where she is making false statements about where she lives, who her spouse is, what the money's for, and whether she's going to be living there rather than trying to rent stuff out, which is violation of federal banking laws, brings in the FBI. That's all right for her to do, but she goes after somebody like we've seen, and you've gotten on them about Fannie Willis down in Atlanta, all of the stuff she was accusing Trump of. Now it's looking like she was looking in a mirror talking to herself.
Well, I want to swing back real quick to the Hakeem Jeffries comment that Senator Mullen had brought up, because that was very interesting and it makes sense. It's like a lot of people were saying, well, who's going to be the Democrat nominees in 2028? Who on the Democrat side is a good fit? And you know what? It is Hakeem Jeffries. I think people didn't think of him because they thought that his eyes were on House of to be Speaker of the House. No, it makes sense for Hakeem Jeffries, and 2028 would be a perfect time for him to run on a Democrat platform. So of course it makes sense that you have not endorsed Mandandi, the runner for mayor, and that's part of his Hakeem Jeffries district out of New York. You're not out here talking about no kings, because you know that's communist funding, right? So, and he is pro-Israel, always has been. He said Israel now, Israel today, Israel forever. So he's gearing up for 2028. And so it's going to be Hakeem Jeffries versus JD Vance, I think. But it's going to be between those two. And then of course, he is foundational Black American as opposed to Obama. He's not mixed. And
he's got the chance of a snail running through a French restaurant where somebody's got a lot of spare garlic. Come on. After Obama, boy, that's dead.
Wait, hold on.
You know what?
Hold on. If people don't understand that, you are alluding to the French cuisine escargot, correct?
Escargot.
Yes.
Maintenant, le temps de partir,
that's Italian. That's not French.
What? Oh, it's French. I took it for 6 years.
You need to work on it.
No, I did all right in Italy, not Italy, in Tahiti and in France, on the Caribbean. Maintenant, le temps de parler français.
That's an Italian accent. That's
all right. Signorina, sta bene, signora.
That's Italian.
Sei italiano, ah?
Yeah.
Parlo italiano. Je parle français maintenant. Okay, now we can get into that. But here is the thing. Hakeem Jeffries has too much of that rainbow head clown we saw in the video that bespeaks the type of aura he has.
I disagree, because he never mentions his.
I don't care. He exudes it. You can read the aura.
Oh my God.
And I think that's his business. But
he's
that's not
married
what the public wants. The public wants.
He's married with kids.
I don't care. Most of the people that are into that are. Remember Sheriff Butt Boy?
I get it.
Remember Sheriff Butt Boy?
I know. Wait, slow down for a second, Judge. Are you getting Hakeem Jeffries mixed up with Cory Booker?
No, I'm going to put Cory Booker in there too. The whole Democratic Party has got that rainbow head clown that we saw in the video at the demonstration. And by the way, instead of saying no King's Day, they should have no Tranny Queen Day, because that's what they're trying to set up. They don't want a king. They're trying to put in a tranny queen to run the country, and that's what they've been about. And think about it. Is he talking about educational benefits to the American student? No. Has he come out to introduce or sponsor or support legislation that say girls sports are for girls only? Is he coming out and saying we need to have more legislation that says you get the federal money knocked off if you try to push putting weird boys in sports bras and panties in the girls' locker rooms in high school, or in the girls' or the ladies' room outside of the school environment? No, he supported that. Are you talking about you gonna deal with helping the military set up a man up campaign? No, he's trying to push something where he says it's all about DEI, diversity, equity, in inclusion, so we can have all of the people there. While China and Russia have a man up campaign, he's trying to push that rainbow stuff, which is interesting. That's his right under the First Amendment, but it ain't good for the country. Is he sitting up there saying we need to protect the children from this garbage where they're trying to sexualize them at 4, 5, 6 years old on television, in the movies, on social media? No, he's not doing anything about that. What is he saying? He supports the exact opposite, his right under the First Amendment. But we know, because we've been listening to him. We can say, where's your legislation that opposes this? Where are your efforts to back up mainstream America? White, black, brown, red, yellow. Remember, we're not talking about racial ethnic groups here. We're talking about ordinary human men and women who raise families like humans all over the planet Earth raise families, and we've got somebody that's anti-family. Where were you when the gas prices started going up? Where were you when the food prices started going up? Where were you when you started ramping up the price that seniors have to pay for Medicare and the insurance backups that they have to take out so that you could steal money or misappropriate money or borrow money to carry out your little special programs? Where were you? You know, what did you come up with?
So with Hakeem Jeffries, he is going to lean more on immigrants.
Yeah, immigrants.
Well, let me finish. So when it comes to Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrats as a whole, they don't have a clear-cut agenda. Now, they do support, LGBTQAI and all that, the things that they want. But that group, right, LGBTQ community, they vote. And that is more so on the Democrat side, even though you have gay people who are Republicans, but that community is more Democrat. And in that community do exercise their political power, and they do organize to get public policies. However, Hakeem Jeffries, he shy away from a lot of the hot button topics, such as, transgender in sports, right? There are only certain groups of pockets of Democrats, politicians that speak up in support of that. When we're talking about the No Kings, he hasn't spoken out against for it or against it, and the mayor of New York. So he knows what he's doing. He's very picky and strategic what he vocally comes out and say. But overall, he is the leader of the Democrat Party, or one of the leaders, and you still have to adhere to that Democrat agenda. And then on top of that, to your point, I agree. Exactly what is their agenda for America, for the American people? Because you're going to be president for all Americans. So
you're right, but let me put the thing in a matter of real perspective, not as we hear from this corrupted communications media industry. A little more than 2% of the American population is gay. About 4%, 4.5%.
Do we have to constantly talk about?
No, hold on. We don't, except for the fact that they make it all about it. They didn't have to have this rainbow nonsense at this parade, but they do. That's their business.
Parade?
The one we showed the clip of, where we were looking at, remember the No Kings Day, and we saw the clown in the rainbow wig. That's their business. They can do that if they want to, but they have to make everything about that in our news, communications, and entertainment industries feed us false propaganda. The reality is that a little more than 2% of the country is gay. A little more than 4% go both ways. For my whole life, I have been identifying as some sort of minority in one ethnic group or another, whether it is being Black or Native American. Okay? For the first time, I am part of an overwhelming majority of the United States of America because I'm a man, you're a woman, and we are part of a 94% absolute majority of the people of this country who do not swing both ways or with the same sex. That's our right. So, what in the devil am I going to go support somebody whose main program is to undercut that? Why am I going to go support some clown show that has been opening up the borders when any reasonably intelligent person possessed of the lowest modicum of common sense knows that Al Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Iran, North Korea, and China are trying to get us? And we open the border wide up so they can walk across in these hostile times like that. I know what I'm paying when I go to a restaurant and I look at the inflation compared to what it was 3 years ago. I know it's going down a little bit, but I see how ridiculous it is. I know when it got up to almost $5 a gallon for gas around here, and now it's sunk down into $2.59, $2.49 a gallon. And I'm saying, oh, I know the crime that is rampant where I live. Memphis is #1 in the nation, the most violent city in America, and the 10th most violent city in the whole world. And I'm looking at some idiots putting on a clown show here, trying to say, let's get these people that are bestowing law and order out so we can go back to crime. I'm looking at the clerk of the courthouse down there, civil, general sessions, and criminal, violating the law. I'm looking at what I have seen where people show me stuff, and I'm saying, look, that needs to be put in front of a grand jury for misappropriating public funds. I'm looking at several somebodies that need to be prosecuted for violating all sorts of ethical considerations and getting all kinds of money put in their bank accounts, or under their mattresses or in some hidden cookie jar. Like we've got Tish James in New York, the second biggest state in the union behind California. Look what she's doing. And we want that. We've got Hakeem Jeffries. We've got Cory Booker's. We've got all of these people backing up this corruption and incompetence, this loss of a sense of common sense, this California debacle that we've got on with Newsom. And these folk act like they never heard of American history or American law, and they're telling the public all kinds of stupid stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with what the realities are. It is absolutely crazy. And I'm insulted that they're trying to get us to buy into this. In my life, I have never seen a political administration try to push such obvious and blatant falsehoods on the public. It's aggravating. The point is we have to stop this. All this crap about no kings, all of this stuff is garbage, and they want you to focus on the small details. There's a big picture that we need to look at because they're trying to bamboozle us. They're running a game on us, and they want us to get stuck on the little tiny details instead of seeing what the big picture is. They have a plan. They are trying to carry it out. I saw it when it started a half century ago. I've watched it as they have astutely put it in place, and I'm not going to be quiet about telling the American public when I get the chance to speak. Look, this is a game. Pay attention to the whole thing, and
All right.
that's what they're doing.
So
So
I want to move on. I got to move
okay.
on. Immigration. I want to swing back to the immigration because this is a quick clip of Christy Hom says the DHA received over 175,000 applicants for 10,000 ICE positions. So I want to play this clip here.
How's your recruitment effort going to hire 10,000 new agents?
Yeah, we had over 175,000 applicants for our 10,000 new ICE agents. We have many of them that are already out on the job. They've completed their training. We also have huge recruitment for not just ICE agents and HSI, but our Secret Service law enforcement officers, our CBP officers. All of those recruitment efforts are through the roof because I think of the individuals that are excited about defending the homeland, protecting this country, and making sure that they have the ability to go out and to do a job that they can be proud of.
So
Great. Americans are rising to the occasion.
I think they need to have more than 10,000 positions for
Well,
ICE.
that's all that got funded. Thank Biden, Harris, and the Democrats in Congress.
So, all right, breaking news. The Ninth Circuit Court Appeals ruled Monday that President Trump can deploy the Oregon National Guard into Portland, marking a significant victory for the president in his efforts to send federal forces into what he called a war-ravaged city. So, yeah, that's a victory. He has several victories. So that is a victory for him when it comes to sending in National Guards. And I'm pretty sure if he got the victory, this is my question to you, Judge, if he got that victory to send the National Guards into Portland, can Illinois follow suit? Because if Illinois is suing and they have to go to court, does this help him with sending National Guards into other states?
It applies to the law as it affects the whole country. Federal law trumps state law. So it's a pun, but it's intended. Federal law trumps state law. And if this Supreme Court had done anything else besides what he did, I'd be very disappointed in them. It's been the law for the longest time, and in spite of the news and communications industries and the far left and the blues and the rainbows going offline to the American public that Mr. Trump, President Trump, is breaking the law, this is the law. And they're the ones that want us to stomp on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and suppress everybody's benefits under the American system because it doesn't match their particular screwed up agenda. So this is the law, and it's going to go down like it is. The president, governors, and others have been requesting federal assistance for the longest throughout the country's history. And remember, this goes back through Marshall Wider, Marshall Bass Reeves. It goes back a long, long way. So contrary to what you're hearing, Trump is not breaking the law. He is firmly and solidly on the well-marked pathway that's laid out through the guidelines of the American legal system. And it has been a work in progress for 230 some years. So he's right on the path.
Well, I want to play this clip of Hillary Clinton, right? This is, do I have a year here? Yeah, 1993. She was first lady at that time. And this is what she had to say about, because we are still in the middle of a government shutdown. This is the fourth week or third week. No, I think fourth week of the government shutdown. And the fight, the battle, with this government shutdown is due to the fact that they want Medicaid for all, even illegals. And so it's
Not for all, just the illegals, which are eating up a whole lot of the money.
That's what I meant, for all citizens and illegals. So not for all Americans, for every person who.
Well, let's just send the money down to wherever in the devil they came from.
So I want to play this clip here of Hillary, because when we talk about the Democrats who are always anti-illegals, but now they have amnesia, they did a complete 360.
As to illegal aliens, we agree with you that we do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens. We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
Well, that's like saying, hey, guys, crime pays. We want you to break the law. Come on. We'll reward you. We'll give you some benefits for breaking the law. When you sneak across the border and smuggle yourself across, that's against the law. So come on in. We will give you up to $5,000 a month that we won't give our lawful citizens here. We will give you free medical care that everybody else is stuck on. I'm pissed because I'm paying almost $15,000 a year and I'm on Medicare. That is absolutely ridiculous. And they want to give these benefits to somebody that isn't even paying into the tax coffers of the United States. What is the matter with these people? If they lost their minds? And remember, we had 911. They did in the Twin Towers, downtown New York, 3,000 some people died. You got 4 hijacked airplanes. You got all big mess they tried to do in the Pentagon, but it was too big for them to do what they thought they were going to do. And now we let these folk come in across the border without saying anything about it. We've got incurable strains of tuberculosis that are running wild, venereal diseases. We've got tens of thousands of people that are convicted sex offenders. Nobody knows where they are. We've got tens of thousands of convicted murderers. We've got gangsters. We've got all kinds of cartel members who have come across. We've got people who are dealing with massive crime, and we don't care. We've got situations where American citizens are afraid to come out of their apartments and apartment buildings because foreign gangsters have taken them over. What is this mess? This is just absolutely ridiculous, and we're supposed to give these people another shot at this kind of nonsense. They need to tell us what you're going to do about Hamas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, what you're going to do about Iran, what you're going to do about North Korea, what you're going to do about China. And they can't tell us because they don't have a plan. They'd rather sit there and push their little cult stuff in the military instead of getting it set up to fight. Well, and what they're upset about is they caused this country to be constipated, and they don't like the fact that somebody's giving them an enema. And from their persuasion, they ought to like it. So, hey.
Well, they're no longer in charge, so this is cleanup time. I do want to play this last clip here, and this is Zoran Mandandi and Andrew Cuomo. Their New York City mayor debate was last week, and this is just a clip from it. And the reason why I'm playing this from Diaper Diplomacy, go follow him on X. It's funny because that whole mayor race is a joke. But this is the sound is the actual clips from the debate.
Mr. Mandani, you work as a foreclosure prevention counselor for winning seat in the state assembly. You have no substantial management experience. How are you ready to lead the nation's largest and greatest city in the world in one day? You have a minute.
I have the experience of having served in the New York State Assembly for 5 years and watching a broken political system, the experience of seeing a governor in Andrew Cuomo who would rather have served his billionaire donors and the working class New Yorkers who voted for him. And the experience amidst all of that, of fighting and winning for working class taxi drivers to free them from predatory debt, and delivering the first free bus lines in New York City history, and in working with unions and working class New Yorkers to finally raise taxes just that little bit on Mr. Cuomo's donors to start to fully fund our public school. And more than that, I have the experience of being a New Yorker, someone who has actually paid rent in the city before I ran for mayor, someone who has had to wait for a bus that never came, someone who actually buys his groceries in this same city. And what all of that experience has shown me, which Mr. Cuomo can't seem to understand, is that it is far too expensive and far too hard for New Yorkers to afford to live in this city. And the definition of experience is not doing the same thing again and again and hoping for a different result. That's actually the definition of insanity.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
If I can, I think I was invoked.
Yes.
In other words, what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience. And this is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to run $115 billion budget. He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer. Any day, you could have a hurricane, you have, God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic. If you don't know what you're doing, people could die.
Mr. Mamdani, you want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes?
That is so. I love his X account, diaper diplomacy. And that was a clip of the New York City mayor debate from last week. And their election is November. It's coming up. Less than a month.
Hakeem Jeffries and his bunch, that's what they represent.
Well, Hakeem Jeffries has not endorsed neither one of them.
I don't care whether they've endorsed them. It sounds like the same. In other words, all coming out of the same cradle.
Mm-hmm. Baby cradle, yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Man Up Mondays with Judge Brown and me, the real Dana. And we will catch you next week or later on in the week. All right, have a good week, everybody. Bye.